he physically grabbed me, and was dragging me and pulling me into the bathroom. I was terrified. I was panicking. I started screaming, "Help, help, somebody help, please, help, help," as loud as I could. I was screaming at the top of my lungs. I definitely was fighting for my life because I was fighting him off, trying to get away, because I really felt my life depended on it. It was 2009. I was working a full-time job and a part-time job and a college student at the time. I had been dating my boyfriend for about a year. He was definitely my best friend at the time. I loved and cared for him very much. He was my best friend, the person I spent the most time with. I went to visit my family about once a month. They lived 2 hours away, so I would go visit them. This particular event, I had went to visit my family on a Friday. I came back on Sunday. When I got back on Sunday, my boyfriend was exhibiting very bizarre behavior, just very, very out of character, not norm behavior. He seemed like a totally different person. I walked in the door on Sunday to my apartment. He walked right up to me and had a bowl of water. Inside the bowl of water was his state ID. He said, "I'm deactivating it." "Look, I'm deactivating it." I said, "What do you mean you're deactivating it? What do you mean? What are you talking about?" He guided me over to the front windows and said, "Do you see them outside?" I did not see anything. I didn't know what he was talking about. He claimed that there were snipers on all the rooftops watching him. He was very paranoid, very agitated, very just not himself. Completely bizarre. He said, "Do you see up in the corner?" And he pointed to the ceiling. I looked up at the ceiling. There was nothing there. He claimed that there was a box of information floating in the corner of the ceiling. Again, really bizarre. I started thinking he has taken something while I was gone and he is hallucinating. That's what I thought. I asked him, "What did you take? Did you take some sort of drug? Like, are you experimenting with some sort of drug? You can tell me. I won't be mad. Just tell me what you took so that I can help you." He said he did not take any drug. I kept asking, "Are you sure you didn't take anything? You can tell me. I won't be mad." Me asking him this just made him get more agitated and more upset. So I backed off. I didn't want to make this situation worse. I was trying to make it better. So I backed off. I stopped asking that. I went alone in the next room where he couldn't hear me, and I called his mother. And I told his mom, "He's acting really weird." And I told her the things that he was doing. She agreed with me and said, "Try to feed him and get him to bed, and it'll be better in the morning." So that's what I did. I cooked dinner and I tried to get him to eat, and he was not having any of it. He would not eat, not even one bite. I was really tired. I knew I had a big day the next day. I had to go to both jobs and school. So I told him, I said, "I'm really tired. Let's go to bed." And I was just hoping that some sleep would wear it off, whatever it was would wear off, and in the morning he would be back to normal. We went to bed that night. I woke up in the middle of the night and he was sitting with his legs crossed in the middle of the bed. And I said, "What are you doing?" I could not get a reaction from him. He would not react. I just laid down and tried to go back to sleep and push it out of my mind. I knew I had a big day the next day, so I went back to bed. We woke up in the morning. He was crying, begging me not to go to work. I was not the type of person to call off of work. I never called off of work unless it was like extreme scenario, unless it was something really, really important. But he was crying and begging me not to go. I decided I was going to stay home with him because he really needed me. He was really crying. I had never seen him cry before in the year of dating him. He was normally a very energetic, outgoing, life of the party, fun, caring personality. It was not like him to cry or to be paranoid or to act the way he was acting. It was totally out of the norm. So I called into work and I let my boss know. I said, I'm sorry, I've got some stuff going on today that I really have to take care of. And I stayed home that day with him. I was just hoping that a nice relaxing day to recoup would snap him out of this and that he would get back into being his regular self. I was just hoping that that would happen. So we were sitting there relaxing on the couch. He was in his boxer shorts and nothing else. No socks, no shoes, no shirt, nothing but boxer shorts. We were sitting there watching TV. He burst up, flew up and jetted out the front door. I was like, oh my God, what is he doing? Oh my God. I went after him, tried to get him to stop. He would not stop. He just kept running down the sidewalk. I could not keep up with him. He was gone in his underwear through the neighborhood. I called his mother once again and I told her what was going on. And I talked to her for about 30 minutes on the phone. We decided that I should go look for him. So I got off the phone and I went to go look for him. As I was leaving to go look for him, he came walking back into the parking lot. I was relieved to see him. I said, let's go back upstairs. I had never seen him act this way at all. He was really upset emotionally. I thought, I will just do my best to help him. We'll get through this, So that's how I went on with the day. I decided to take him over to his mother's house to show her exactly how he was acting, because I didn't know if she was getting the actual picture of it through my phone conversations. So I took him over to her house. On the way to her house, he tried jumping out of my car while it was going 30 miles an hour down the road. When we got there, he was running up and down the middle of the road, chanting and yelling. I got him to calm down. We sat with his mom, and she did not say anything about calling, the hospital or calling the police. And I really wish we would have at the time, but neither of us did. We get back to the apartment. I was hoping that he would go to bed. When I fell asleep, he was still awake. When I woke up in the morning, he seemed better. He was not crying or emotional anymore. He seemed a bit better. And I was like, oh, good. Maybe he did take some drug and maybe it's wearing off. Maybe it's finally wearing off. I had no idea at the time how long hallucinogens stayed in your system, how long they affected you. I knew nothing about it. So I got ready for work. He was still acting kind of odd, but he was quiet. I got ready for work. I went to work. While I was at work, I was worried about him. I called his mom and I said, would you go check on him? I feel guilty for leaving him alone. She went over and checked on him. I got a phone call from her. When she got to the apartment, he had everything unplugged that was electrical, even the refrigerator. He had it unplugged. All the lights were off. Everything was unplugged, and he was sitting in the middle of the kitchen floor, hugging his knees, rocking back and forth, and crying. That's what she called me and told me when I was at work. She stayed with him the rest of the day until I got home. When I got home, she left. It was just me and him there. I was progressively getting freaked out. But this is where the big, finale happened. He looked at me, and his body language when he did this was really bizarre. Jerked. And he said,
who is your God?
I told him, God in heaven, Jesus Christ, God in heaven, Jesus is the Son of God. I was raised Christian at that time in my life. That's the extent of my belief. Now, If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I have been on a spiritual path, a spiritual journey for quite a while now. But back in 2009, I basically considered myself Christian, and that was the extent of it. So when he asked me, who is your God? I said, God in heaven, Jesus Christ, the Son of God. He did not like that reaction at all. He did not like what I said. He got angry immediately. I really want to be able to project to you how his body language was, because it was really, really, really eerie and creepy.
I did not come all the way up here for you to doubt me.
That is what he said to me when I told him who God was to me. So, I'll just redo this for you real quick. First, he said jerking motion.
Who is your God?
I said, God in heaven. You know, Jesus is the Son of God. His whole body jerked again.
I did not come all the way up here for you to doubt me. You are not pure.
When he said that to me, chills just ran down my body. Like, it was the creepiest, most eerie feeling. The mannerisms, the facial expressions were not him. It did not feel like him at all. It terrified me. He then went into the bathroom, and I heard the bathtub filling up with water. He had turned the bathtub on. He came back out. At this time, my state of mind, I was exhausted, I was tired, I was overwhelmed, I was terrified. When I look back now, I should have called for help at that moment, before that moment. When I look back now, the me now would never be in that situation. The me now would never have let it got that far. But maybe that's because I've already been through this situation. He came out of the bathroom. I could hear the bathtub filling up with water. That is when he came over to me and physically grabbed me. I immediately panicked. He physically grabbed me, and was dragging me and pulling me into the bathroom. I was terrified. I was panicking. I started screaming, help, help, somebody help, please, help, help, as loud as I could. I was screaming at the top of my lungs, hoping that anybody in the building, a neighbor, anybody would hear and help me. I definitely was fighting for my life, because I was fighting him off, trying to get away, because I really felt my life depended on it. He was dragging me to the bathroom. I could literally see, we were in the bathroom doorway, I could literally see the tub filling with water as he was dragging me to it. At that time, my dog Diamond came running up. I was not even thinking of her at the time, but here she came running. I don't know that she bit him. He did not have any bite wounds. There were no bite wounds. But whatever she did to him when she came running up, he let go of me. And I took off running. You know that fight or flight? Well, I was definitely in flight. My purse and my keys sat right by the door all the time. So I grabbed my purse and my keys and I flew out the door. But when I got to the hallway, I froze, because I realized my dog is still inside there. I was too afraid to open the door, and I just froze, standing there not knowing what to do. The next thing I know, the door flies open and Diamond comes running out. Me and her then fly down the stairway to my car. I put her in the back seat, I get in the front seat, and I'm driving. I was freaking out. I was bawling, I was crying, I was terrified, panicking, which is not a good time to be driving, but all I could think was, I need to get away. I need to get away. So I drove for about 20 minutes, and then I realized, I gotta go back. That's my apartment. That's where I live. I have nowhere else to go. I have to go back there. So I turned around and I went back. When I got there, there were police in the parking lot. There were squad cars in the parking lot, and the police were out of the cars and they had flashlights and they were looking. And right as I was about to get out of the car and say, hey, I think I know what you're looking for, because I was pretty sure a neighbor had called the cops when they heard me screaming for help. But right as I was going to get out of the car and say that, all of a sudden, all the police and their lights, their attention went straight up to my apartment window. My then boyfriend had started yelling out the window and chanting bizarre things. He was chanting and yelling out the window. So it got the attention of the police immediately, and they started running to my apartment building, and I jumped out of the car. I said, hey, I know him, that's my apartment. He's acting really weird. One police officer stopped to talk to me. All the rest of them went upstairs. I said, he's not normally like this. I don't know what's wrong with him. He's acting really weird. He's been acting really bizarre, but it's not his normal character. Like, he's really a nice person. He's usually very, fun and caring, and I don't know what's going on with him, but please don't hurt him, because this is not his norm. Something is going on with him. He's not okay. The police officer asked me, was he on any drugs? I said, not that I know of. I had asked him, and he told me no, and I told the police officer that. So, me and Diamond were waiting down by the car, and I could hear crashing and banging and yelling going on in my apartment with the police and my then boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend. But I could hear that happening, and the next thing I saw was they carried him out of the apartment on a stretcher. They had him strapped down to the ambulance bed, and they were taking him to the hospital. The police told me that they believed he was on some kind of drug, because when they tased him, he did not fall to the ground, and he actually ripped the electrodes out of his body. Because I guess when you get tased, these little wires hit your body, and instead of making him fall to the ground, he actually got more enraged and he ripped them out, and he came at the police trying to hit them, trying to fight them, and they had to restrain him and strap him down to the ambulance stretcher. They took him to the hospital. They told me that I could come to the hospital, I could follow behind in my car, and I went to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, the nurse told me that he had been violent at the hospital, trying to punch doctors and nurses when they had unstrapped him, so they then had to restrain him to the hospital bed. I looked in the window to the doorway, and he looked like something out of that movie, The Exorcist, when she's tied down to the bed. That is what he reminded me of. And it was really scary to look at. It was freaky, really bizarre. We're at the hospital. I finally thought, okay, maybe, hopefully they can help him. All I've wanted this whole time was to help him. He is someone that I cared so much about, and for a year had done everything with every day. It was bizarre to me that he could flip and change just like that. I just wanted to help him. I kept thinking to myself, I'm not a fair-weathered person. I'm not going to ditch him while he's going through something bad. I'm going to stay by his side. I'm going to try to help him. And that's what I did. So I asked the nurse if I could go in the room, and she said, you really don't need to subject yourself to that. You don't have to go in there. I told her, I know I don't have to, but I want to. I want to be in there with him. So I went in the room. I sat in a chair away from the bed. I actually was able to get him calmed down and soothed enough to where they took the restraints off. And I thought, yay, good. Something good is happening. But the next morning he started acting violent once again, and they had to put the restraints back on. While he was restrained, they put a catheter in and they ran a drug test. The result of the drug test came back that he was not on any drug at all. You might think that this is a happy thing, but my feeling was I was even more scared, because if it was not a drug making this happen, then what was making this happen? What was wrong with him? You know, why was this happening? So he ended up getting diagnosed with mental illness, some particular mental illness, and the doctor said that he had had a psychotic episode. That's what they called it. He stayed in the hospital for about 2 weeks, and then he was transferred to a mental facility where he stayed for a little over a month. That's where I'm going to go ahead and end the story for today. I will do a part 2 to this, letting you know what happened while he was in the mental facility and what happened from there. But this is the time that my ex-boyfriend tried to drown me in the bathtub. And I will share with you the silver lining and the positive that I took out of this. It was an extremely traumatic event, and it was very terrifying. And when I look back now, I realize one of the positives is I could have asked for help. It is okay to ask for help. Not everybody realizes that. I know for myself, I've always been a really independent person, and asking for help is not something that I've been good at in the past. Now I understand that I've went through these things. I get it, definitely. The moment you feel danger, the moment you feel overwhelmed and terrified to that point, the moment that happened, I wish I would have called for help. Like I said, the me now would never have been in that situation, because I would not have let it go that far. One of the positive things that I've learned from this and taken from this is that it is okay to ask for help, and it is necessary sometimes. We can't always handle everything all on our own, and it is completely okay to ask for help if you need help. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you can't handle life. Everybody needs help every now and then. Another positive thing that I took from this is that I love helping other people. I love uplifting other people, and it's something that means a lot to me. And that portion of the story where I learned that more so goes on to when he was actually in the mental facility, but I'll share that with you later. But yeah, so it's okay to ask for help. And another positive I learned from this was, if something traumatic or something like this happens to you, releasing it and letting it go, not dwelling on it, is really important to me. Because if you dwell on certain things and you hold it in, it can really just eat you up alive mentally. So one thing I've learned also is to let it go, move forward, take what you can from the situation, what you've learned, and let it go. Those are the positives that I am going to share with you for today on what I got from this, and I definitely have more to say in my next video about when he went to the mental facility. So if you have any comments or questions, anything at all that you want to talk about, hit me up in the comments below. If you want to stay connected with me, if you want further interaction with me, hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate you being here. And I'm just going to close with saying, I hope you all have a beautiful, beautiful days, and I'm sending love to you all. Mwah! Let it go, whatever it is that's bothering you, make peace with it and let it go. And if you want to connect, if you feel like you are going through this kind of thing, I want you to know it's okay to ask for help, and if you have anything that you want to connect with me about, hit me up.